Welcome to another structure generation tutorial video. Now today, it's only been 2 days since I have released the structure generator plugin, and we're already in version 1.1. Thanks to our boy Pyrogisk. That's my best attempt to pronounce his username. He added a world edit hook that allows for transforming a selected structure in your server and transforming it into a data file for the generator. Of course, it wouldn't be a complete data file because you'd also have to set up other parameters, but it takes a lot of time out of having to put in all those numbers if you're making a really complex structure. And we've fixed the spawn not having the structures generated. Anyways, in this video, we will be going over the deep check. So let's go to our structure, the bush. So this is where we were at last time. And I'm going to regenerate the world. Did I delete the world? Yes, I did. And we're going to join it. And now we don't have to walk around for a little bit because all those structures will be there instantly. Wait for this to load. And I'll show you a couple of things with having no requirements. Now, I did mention it briefly at the end of last video, but let's find some better examples here. This guy. Look how deep in the ground he is. And he's replacing all of these blocks. This is what we're going to remove first, because we can remove this case with the deep check. So what we're going to do is, what the deep check is it scans every single block that's within the structure and determines if the structure can generate there. This is more for saving you time, because when we learn the initial check, you'll see why if you have a giant structure and you need to check a lot of blocks inside of the structure, you do not want to be using the initial check. So because it checks every block inside of the structure, it's going to be the same exact size as the structure. So instead of this X, what we'll be doing is checking to make sure that every single block inside of the structure is air. And if it's not, then it will not generate. So we're just going to create, 4 layers of 3x3 0. And then we'll have 2 spaces in between here just to make it less confusing. It actually doesn't matter, but then there's 2 spaces separating the actual structure from, this. And I mean, you can add as many spaces in here as you want. So one thing I didn't define last time is why do I put 4 in the middle and then 3s on the outside? This is just the size in X, Y, and Z. When the structure is read into the plugin, this direction is X, going down like this is Z, and of course, this is a layer, and that's going in the Y direction. So we've got, 4 of these, which is 4, and then an X times Z is going to be 3x3, just if you didn't pick up on that. So we're going to save this, and because structures are seed determined, if we delete this world, actually, I still have the server running, but I'm going to join the world quick, just to give you an example. So this bush right here is going to be at location, I'm staring right at it by being at -47, Z38, Y70. -47, 38. Let me write that down quick. Now what's going to happen, because these things are determined by the seeds, is that this is still going to be here. This will not be, because it's within the sand. And I mean, I have to regenerate the world for that to happen. So shut off the server, regenerate the world, and see that bush that was in a bad spot magically disappear, and the other one will stay. That is, the delete button key will work. Okay. Because as you can see, each time I'm generating with the same seed. I've been doing it since the beginning of the tutorials, and it's 404. I am stupid. I did not, might have saved the structure, but I did not update the structure inside of the zip file. If you caught that, you might be smarter than I. In fact, let me just double check that I saved this here. And then, let's put that in there. Now that's updated. Let's get the wool again, drag in. It's always a bunch of things to keep track of when doing these tutorial videos, and I can't really do that. It appears that the structure, both of them, have actually disappeared. And now that I think of that, I believe that's because since that one didn't generate, it ends up calling less random numbers into play, so it ends up modifying that chunk and where things generate. But they are no longer here. We will not be finding any of these bushes generating into the ground. They will only be in the sky or touching the ground because, you know, that's not a part of the structure. So, let's say I do want to create a rather unique desert bush. And with this setup, I can create a case where if it generates one deep into the sand, it will generate, sorry, I keep tabbing out here. It will generate just kind of one down into the sand, so the stem will be inside the sand, and then the 3x3x3 bush area will be sticking out of the sand. So let's design that quick. First, I normally just use Minecraft IDs, just Google that quick. Sand is 12. So let's have this first layer be all 12s. So then it's going to generate one deep into the sand. This also means that if it's not inside of the sand, it will not generate. Now it's time to get rid of all these floating bushes. So immediately, even though not too many structures or chunks have generated in yet, the sky, even though we're in a desert, no longer has bushes. That's because it will only generate when it is one layer inside of the sand. So let's roam around until we find a bush that is properly generated. Now, I've been roaming around for a little while, and I actually have not found a single structure. That's probably because it's pretty rare. It needs to be within the desert. Most of the time, the trees are going to generate up here in the sky. So there's only going to be a couple of cases where they're going to generate down here, and it needs to be air right above a 3x3 area. So like, you know, right here would be a good spot, but this is actually too low. I need to set the generator to go a little bit lower to hit this spot, which is why we're not seeing them here. And anywhere around here, it's not going to generate because we don't have any 3x3 sand area with just air above it. I mean, here's a spot, but it would have to be that one spot. So this is when you start having to manipulate your structure such that it generates more often. Now, the easy way to do that is by just cranking up the number of how often it tries to generate. But what this ends up doing is it puts more load on the game because you're just asking it to generate more and more. I mean, I could crank it up to 1,000, but then the chunks are going to start having a hard time loading because there's so many times it has to check. So what we're going to do is we will increase this to 15, and we're going to lower it so that I can generate at the water too. And we're going to lower this because it's never going to generate that high. So we're going to only ask it to go up to 70. Those bushes are definitely going to be on the beaches now. Actually, you know what? Let's put it up to 80. So let's regenerate this world, and hopefully that worked. There we go. Here's the structure. It's nice and flat, and it has generated at the sand height. Now you will notice that underneath it's air, because in our structure it's air that's generating around it. So what if you don't want that to be air? You want that to just stay to be sand. I mean, we could technically program it as sand, but let's say you also want this bush to be able to generate onto grass. You just want that area around the stem to be the grass or the sand, so then it looks like, you know, it's coming up out of the desert or out of the grass. Well, this is your first special case you're going to encounter. And the special cases they're going to make this structure generator really stand out amongst anything else. So this is a very basic special case where if you put in -1, this simply means don't generate anything here. Keep it as it was. Now, in the case of the placing blocks, in a sense, or replacing blocks by putting in the structure, this means, you know, keep the block. Now, if I were to do that inside of the full check, or the deep check, this means ignore that. It doesn't matter what this is. So, we could have it so that instead of needing a full 3x3 square at the bottom, we only need one piece of sand for it to generate on top of. This is going to make it generate a lot more often, because we don't need that full flat piece. We only need one block, so it can generate on edges. And then we'll surround the bottom with -1s. And there we go. So now, the area around the stem will not be replaced with air. It will just be, the stem will be deeper into the ground, and it only checks for one block of sand that it has to generate at. And it also still is checking for that 3x3x3 of air above it, so then it's not like generating into a wall or something. So let's regenerate this world. I mean, let me show you. I was looking around a little bit, and I saw a couple more trees. Might as well, yep, there you go. Yeah, cranking up to 15 and lowering it definitely has made them a lot more common, so I'm going to put it back to 10 too, which I appear to have done. And a perfect example. So if we dig out this piece of sand, we can see that, you know, the stem goes down deeper into the ground. And it ignored this. It didn't care if that was sand right here. It only wanted that piece of sand on the inside. So it is on a slight ledge, and the entire area above it is air, so it properly generated. And there you go. You've basically got your first real structure here. That doesn't look like some stupid thing floating in the air like all these pieces of stone. Now, it's still not super common, and I'm actually kind of confused why, because we should be seeing more of these with how often they were generating in the air, but we can just increase the amount. Now, do know that I have optimized how these things generate. If it detects one wrong block, it immediately stops the process and moves on to the next one. But that still ends up becoming a problem if, let's say, we're generating a 20x20 structure. You know, something really big, and it's, you know, halfway into the stone because it has like a basement or something. So we're talking about a decent-sized building. In order to search that entire thing, it would have to go layer by layer in the stone, and it might be picking up completely stone. And being like, all right, keep checking. And since it's 20x20, you have to check 400 blocks per layer. And it could be until like the fifth block or fifth layer where you've already checked, a few thousand blocks until it realizes that it's too deep into the ground and doesn't generate. That is incredibly inefficient. So in the next video, I'll be introducing you to the initial check, a very optimized checking system that is not every individual block. It is also used for checking blocks outside of the structure. And make sure to update your structure generator to 1.1 if you have not.